Hello, good evening, televiewers. You are welcome to another edition of Prime on my media Prime. In the program today, we are going to be looking at the pre-talks going on by the Prime Minister of Cameroon, His Majesty Dr. Dion Gute, who has been receiving political and other leaders at the Star Building in Yaoundé, discussing issues touching on how to find a lasting solution to the issues plaguing Cameroon, specifically with respect to the ongoing socio-political tensions in the northwest and southwest region. We are talking about the Anglophone crisis, following the announcement made by the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Paul Biya, calling on Cameroonians to come together on the big table for a grand national dialogue. We equally are going to be looking at the letter that was addressed to the President of the Republic by the Citizenship Front, where we find political parties alongside other civil society organizations. They held a press conference 2 days ago in Douala, Cameroon's economic capital, and made their points clear. They actually presented a roadmap which, according to them, should be followed for a meaningful dialogue to take place in Cameroon. We are going to be discussing on these two topics with our panelists who are in the house. Two of them are still on the way. Elvis Fatayong is on his way, as well as Salmon Bias. But already in the house with us is Jean-Claude Agbotem. He's representing the Citizenship Front that held the press conference in Douala. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Leonard. Good evening to all televiewers. Good evening to Cameroonians, in particular those of the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. And it's a pleasure being here on this panel for my very first time.
We hope that televiewers are going to be enjoying your inputs this evening. Equally, all the way from Yaoundé is Mr. Ndange George Njebu. He is the Secretary General of PAP for Douala 5 constituency.
Yaoundé 5.
Yaoundé 5 constituency. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, my dear televiewers of this noble channel. Good evening, Cameroonians, especially those from the northwest and southwest. It's my pleasure being here.
Yeah, we hope that we are going to talk about issues that they're expecting to be addressed, especially as we look forward to the holding of the Grand National Dialogue. I start with you, Mr. Jean-Claude Agbotem. Was there need for a press conference by the Citizen Front?
Well, Mr. Leonard, you will understand that the Citizen Front is made up of political parties and civil societies that have been so much involved in the Anglophone crisis from the beginning. That organization which I am member, the Stand Up for Cameroon, which is part of the Citizen Front, has always been involved in humanitarian actions and suggestions to the state. To us, dialogue wasn't a new thing. We knew no matter how headstrong the Biya regime was, that one day we were going to arrive at it. And we made certain proposals. And so when the President of the Republic made the declaration on the 10th of September, we thought it wise to bring Cameroonians to the reality of what we have been talking about. You remember far back in 2017, Stand Up for Cameroon initiated the dialogue actions. We met a lot of members of the government telling them we should reach at this dialogue so that the situation should not reach where we are today. And so when the president made this declaration, we saw a lot of lapses, and we thought that it is our responsibility as those who represent the people to always call their attention that, hey, listen, this direction is not the proper direction. And so the reason for us to call this press conference, because we had a letter that is addressed to the President of the Republic, and in which PAP is also a member of that front. That was even presented, the English version part was presented by the president of the PAP himself, and the French version by Frank Essi, who is the Secretary General of CPP. So the reason for this was to make Cameroonians to know that we are part and parcel of the solution, of the dialogue that we have ever been calling. And we think that the message must have gone through, first of all, to the state authorities who are, in quotes, organizing the dialogue, and the Cameroonian people to whom the dialogue is being organized in favor of.
Okay, so you are discouraging the idea of a national dialogue?
No. Don't get us wrong. Okay. It is true, a lot of journalists ask that question. But what you should understand is that for an event to take place, there must be the preparatory session. And if you are already participating in the preparatory session of an event, it means you are already in the event. So by advising the BR regime on how they should go so that we should have a fruitful dialogue, it's not discouraging the dialogue. If we were to discourage the dialogue, we would not advise. But if we are advising and putting down some points that should be followed so that we should have a fruitful dialogue. Because, Leonard, the issue here is not just to organize a dialogue, but is to reach at something.
An effective dialogue.
An effective dialogue. And that is where we stand. Okay. And we think that we should not, it is not the responsibility of the Prime Minister alone. It is our responsibility as Cameroonians, because this dialogue is organized for us Cameroonians. And we cannot just follow, we are not spectators. Therefore, we must be there from the think tank to the planning and to the realization, and even to the implementation of the resolutions.
That's a follow-up.
That will come
because
after the dialogue.
In your letter, that there is need for a mechanism to be put in place for a follow-up, so that what happened during the tripartite should not repeat itself.
Of course, if there is no follow-up, it is even better not to have a dialogue than to have a dialogue without a follow-up. We must have a follow-up, and that is where we stand, because we think that the Cameroonian people deserve more.
Okay, but before the holding of this press conference in Douala, the PAP had a press conference last week to state its position vis-a-vis the called dialogue. What was it all about? What were you people telling Cameroonians?
Well, knowing already the regime which we are dealing with, the regime that have bring nothing but havoc to the entire Cameroonians, we decided to take this as an opportunity.
Cameroon has been peaceful for all these years. You say the regime that has brought havoc.
When I talk of the regime that we say Cameroon have been peaceful, what is peace? When people are dying psychologically because the freedom of speech is not allowed. That freedom of speech is not guaranteed.
So you and I are talking here.
Yes, we are talking here about some particular things that you will talk today and tomorrow you'll be locked up. So we should not deny the fact that we are living in a regime where there is fear of that particular regime. Whereas that regime, its main purpose is to serve the people, not the people serving them, not the people being afraid of them. Yes.
Okay. So what was the point of the press conference that the PAP organized last Saturday in Yaoundé?
Well, PAP listened with keen interest the president's speech, and we had to bring out some conditions in which can enable a sincere dialogue. And some of the conditions were, first, the call for immediate ceasefire, the release of the main key actors that were involved in the dialogue, like Sisiku, Ayu, Tabe, and the rest. The rehabilitation of the refugees and internally displaced persons through the NGOs. A relook into the Constitution of 1961. Those were some of the things that the PAP called a press conference for.
So you called a press conference to put in place preconditions before the holding of the dialogue. But we understand that the international community and other instances have called for inclusive dialogue without preconditions. Why do you want to put conditions?
Well,
before the holding of the...
Okay, when you look at the speech of the President of the Republic, he invited everybody but invited nobody. And then secondly, when you look at it, the mediator of that dialogue, it is the government himself that is having the problem with the people of Northwest and Southwest. Now, if two people are fighting, how can you call one again to bring peace when the two people are seriously fighting? It's impossible. That is the first factor. Now, if we want to call a sincere dialogue in this aspect, we don't need to look for that particular person that has been causing us trouble all these years. Look, the problem of 1991, right? Where they held the tripartite conference. There were many things that the government accepted to do. Like first, decentralization. Two, the presidential mandate was 5 years. 5 years.
Yeah.
Now they accepted that they are going to respect it. In the long run, they failed to respect those things. Calling a dialogue at this particular point in time, calling on the Prime Minister to mediate such dialogue, there is supposed to be preconditions in order to guarantee a sincere dialogue. Because the credibility of a sincere dialogue depends on the credibility of the mediator.
Okay, depends on the credibility of the mediator. Only that you people did not raise these objections when the United States, the EU, the United Nations all asked the because all of them were calling on the Cameroon government to organize an inclusive dialogue. We did not hear all of you talk until when the president now calls for the dialogue. We have been joined by by Far Elvis Dayong. Elvis, I was in Limbe. Many people are sending greetings. I was in Mutengene also. Okay. Many people were saying that I should extend my greetings to you and Salomon Bias. They saw me on the streets of Mutengene today and they were sending greetings to you and Salomon. Now, welcome. And when the EU said Cameroon government organized inclusive dialogue, nobody opposed. The United States did the same. Everybody did the same. And when the president now says it's time for the dialogue, people are now posing preconditions. No. I'm sure you have also posed preconditions. Yeah.
I have not said we are opposing. We are simply bringing the conditions in which we enable a sincere dialogue.
But those are preconditions now.
No, they are not preconditions.
They are not.
Do you think that the EU think that the EU and America are sincere?
Oh, they are not sincere.
Dialogue is not.
It has been 3 years today. Where is the EU that you're talking about?
You don't expect two people fighting and you stand by and expect them to stop. Okay. No, in the African context,
we need a neutral body.
We know that when two people are fighting, for you to stop that fight, you come in the middle of them.
Okay. Now, Elvis Fatayong, do you think that preconditions are supposed to be respected before this dialogue holds, like other people are opining?
Well, for me, I think it will hardly have a dialogue without some preconditions, even if they might not be made official. But the main worry here is that, as you said earlier, EU, US, and other organizations were talking about dialogue or whatever the case might be, what is inclusive. But then I think if you see people talking today, it's because the main principles of inclusive dialogue has not been respected. That's why I said Cameroon is the only country that surprises me in all its functionalities. I said here the only country that takes 12 hours to read an election, the only country that gets into preliminary consultation and to dialogue without the principal actors, it is only Cameroon. And that's why I said earlier here that if the government does not adjust its tone in that, when they talk about inclusive dialogue, United States did not specify because the conditions or the principles for inclusive dialogue are clear. Some of those conditions have to do with neutrality. It has to do with consultation between both parties. You cannot be in a conflict because this is a conflict whereby it has gone to a level whereby both the government and the secessionists are on equal levels. I'm sorry to say that. Because the government cannot, as of now, control certain parts of the country. When they say ghost town is today or lockdown which day, people respect. It means there's something wrong with the government's mechanism of administration.
People respect out of fear or out of conviction?
No, whether fear or not, all is that it's implemented. So if this particular decision coming from those in the diaspora can go a long way to be implemented and it affects us economically, it means that where we are now, we are at the position of what we call a consultative talks. And in this case, there's nothing like somebody is a boss, another person is the general, because that's where the state is making an error. The state has its responsibility to call for dialogue, correct? But when it has to do with the process of it, the state is supposed to maintain neutrality at this point of the conflict. If it was the conflict that started maybe a few months ago, like in early 2017, the state still had an upper hand. But where we are now, when I see some people just sit and they say, you drop down your arms in the bushes, I start asking, did you give them arms? Did you give them money to buy the arms where they are? Do you even control them? It becomes very complex. So in this situation, we are only at the verge of carrying a constitution whereby the state is supposed to leave its ego. I said sometime when we were looking at the issue in Mozambique, and I said that when the president went to Ngunguru Mountain, where the rebels were there, it was not because the president was a fool. It was because the president realized that he could not fully take charge controlling that area because the rebels had their own arms. So in order to submit, he went to the mountain, signed a peace talks on that mountain, and today there is peace in that country. So we start asking ourselves, when we are at this level of the conflict, when a term is used, we must be able to exhaust that term to the latter. If they say inclusive dialogue, it should not be politicized as I see now. I've gone through all those who are sitting in. I see all of them, pro-government and pro-one party. I have looked at it critically. A handful of those who are going out as delegations, those who have failed in their respective areas to maintain peace, are now championing the cause of those who are going out to meet those in the diaspora. All those missions have failed, as I speak now. And to tell you that it has failed, the results are coming. Because when you have a mathematical formula and you follow it to the latter, you get an answer that corresponds to the working mechanism. But if you begin wrongly, expect to have a wrong result. So all in all, the organizations have done their own job. But then, they will not come into your backyard and tell you that this is the meaning of inclusive dialogue. They expect that we have gone to school, the state is educated, they have professors, they have experts in ERIC, even though they have failed, they have experts in ENAM, even though they too have failed woefully. But those who come in as international organizations and friends of Cameroon, like USA, they are using that term, believing that we will understand. Unfortunately, I have the impression, as I keep saying, that there are surely some persons who enjoy this conflict the way it is going. If not, what will disturb us from putting in place favorable conditions and the principles of neutrality? How do I become a player and a referee at the same time? I did not see the head of state on that list. He was supposed to be on the list. If he mandated the prime minister, of which the person to chair that constitutive talks and the dialogue is not supposed to be chosen by one party. I've said this over and over. If two persons are involved in a conflict, both of you are supposed to come to a consensus. Do we choose this person? One person will say no. It's okay. Produce me your own person. If at the end people don't come to consensus, you could have two persons from your own side of the secession and the side of the government to sit on the table to begin consultative talks. In the first place, the venue is a call for concern. Maybe if the real dialogue comes, then they will take it outside because the principal actors who are in prison and those who are in the diaspora can never come to Yaoundé. I got the communique from I'm coming from Kumba. I got the communique from the Meme SDO, who is convening a meeting on Saturday. So,
tomorrow,
all right.
we are going to discuss.
All right, thank you.
Please stop calling. If you have any contribution, just send a text message. We are going to read them in the course of the program. Now, let's look at the citizen front that also organized a press conference. People have a problem with the manner with which the President of the Republic addressed the complaints of marginalization, and you also want dialogue to focus on discussions on the form of the state.
Our letter focused on first the content of the dialogue, and we think that just to pinpoint a little bit something based on the question you earlier said, when we talk about inclusive dialogue, something is prompting inclusive dialogue.
Yeah.
For there to be a fight between you and me, there must be distrust. There must be disappointment. And to build that back, it needs some preconditions, whether we like it or not.
Okay.
There can't be inclusive dialogue without preconditions. Coming back to our letter, we talked of the content of the dialogue, which is very important. Because mind you, I earlier said the issue is not just to dialogue, but to dialogue and come out with something that will help our nation in the next 100 years, because we have the responsibility to hand this country into the next generation, but a peaceful and well-organized countries, just like other developed countries are doing. We think that on the content of the dialogue, there are issues we should look about objectively. The marginalization of the Anglophones. In fact, I was on another platform today where I was so surprised that some Francophones themselves, they recognize that there is marginalization of Anglophones in Cameroon. That one we cannot refuse it. For the head of state to wipe it the way he did it in his speech, sincerely, we think that it was an expression of bad faith. The second issue was the nature and the form of the state. Because whether we like it or not, Leonard, there are two aspects that makes a nation. First, the constitution, and the second, the electoral law. The Anglophone crisis is a pure contestation of the constitution of the Cameroon. And there is no how we can solve this crisis without putting back the constitution on the table. Just like he rightly said, we must. If we don't, the situation is going to persist. We think that the atrocities committed by the armed groups and the army, in his speech, he made as if the military has not been committing atrocities.
We are going to be looking at all the points
very well.
We are going to be looking at the points you people raised alongside other panelists. I want you to clarify our audience on this issue of constitutional reforms that you want addressed. We understand that the constitutional reforms that we are having now was a product of the tripartite conference. Don't you think that in the course of the dialogue, those are issues that are supposed to be discussed?
But that is why we said this is the content of the dialogue now that we are talking about. And you know, to be very sincere, the regime in place has demonstrated bad faith. The past two events that we have treated the constitution. First, during the reunification. Secondly, in 1991, we've seen that the constitution that was put in place during the reunification, they did not respect it. Another constitution was put in place in 1991 during the tripartite conference. They kept it aside. And we think that this time
things should be
different.
Carefully, yeah.
Now, we are going to look at during the dialogue the humanitarian crisis, because it is very important. People have been wounded. We have wounds to bind. We have people to take care of if we are talking about dialogue. And if we don't, we are wasting time. Another key aspect, Leonard, before you come in, is the participation of this dialogue. Because we think that dialogue is just something you go to the market and buy. The real participants of this dialogue, to bring them on the dialogue table, just like my brother was talking, it's not an easy thing. And to think that you can just get up and give people 15 days to come for the dialogue table, and you think it's going to be real, it's not easy. Take only our own simple case between two friends who have problems. For you to bring the two of them on the table for reconciliation is not easy. But we are talking here of armed separatists. We are talking of people who think that the only way they can solve this problem is by using arms. And we are talking also about the regime that has joined the armed separatists in that same direction. Because we saw Mr. Biya declare war. When you declare war,
I did not see him.
Yes, you did not see it because you don't want to see it, but I will make you see it. Okay. Mr. Biya declared war against the Anglophones, against those who took arms. And you think it's just going to be as easy like that?
War against those who took up arms.
Of course, he did.
Yeah, not Anglophones. Not every Anglophone. You are an Anglophone.
I am an Anglophone. I have not taken arms. But when you declare war, we see that today. We see that today the Anglophones are suffering his declaration.
Yeah. Now, I want us to. PAP is part of this citizen front.
Yes.
And they were part of your president read the memo or the letter to the President of the Republic, the English version, so to say, they say issues of rape, torture, kidnap, failure was not properly addressed by the President of the Republic. He swept that under the carpet and moved on as though nothing happened.
Yes, talking about the humanitarian crisis in Cameroon, you see, the president seems not to have feelings to the people, for the people of the Northwest and the Southwest region. You see, because students have been raped. Not only students have been raped, little children, a child less than a year old have been killed in the process. You understand? Kidnappings is the order of the day in those regions. Torture is the order of the day in those regions. We were waiting for the president to talk about those things. Villages have been set ablaze. Several villages have been reduced to ashes. Schools have been reduced to ashes. We have over 560,000 population displaced, internally displaced. 50,000 refugees in Nigeria. Over 2,000 people have been killed. The president did not talk about the humanitarian crisis. So he don't care about whatever happened in the Northwest and the Southwest region. It's rather very, very bad for him, because you cannot call yourself a president and you don't have feelings for your people, the other part of the country.
Is that not why they...
And then I'm still talking.
Why he's calling for the dialogue?
I'm still talking. When you look at him, listen to his speech, there was nothing like statistics. No death count, wounded persons, nothing like that. But when the human rights organization, they bring their own statistics, he will question it. Up to date, they have systematically denied the fact that there is a humanitarian crisis in the Northwest and the Southwest region. He went as far as calling for a dialogue without talking about rehabilitation of the refugees, internally displaced person. He went ahead by calling for a dialogue, but without looking for a solution to bring back those in the bushes. They were also talking, before the dialogue, they were talking something about back to school, in which our children are in the bushes. Some are in Nigeria. Remember, I just saw a video of a child, a lady that sold her own baby in Nigeria because of the condition in which they find themselves in. And we sit here and we are calling for dialogue in which the necessary conditions are not yet put in place.
Is the PAP going for the dialogue or not?
Well, we have conditions in which, if the government agreed, we will go in for a dialogue. Those conditions are, as I earlier said, we cannot go in for a dialogue without the key actors, like Sisiko and the rest, those from the diaspora. We cannot go in for a dialogue.
A delegation has been sent to the diaspora to make negotiations.
That delegation is a failed delegation, because even the Prime Minister that they have asked to act as a mediator of this dialogue went to Northwest and Southwest, and his visit did not yield any fruit.
Yeah, but he went to announce. What did you expect his visit to accomplish? He went to announce that the President of the Republic has said he's ready for a dialogue, and that dialogue has been called now. And
then remember, he went there and then they called that people should put down their arms. How can you ask people to put down their arms when the military are ready to kill?
Okay, we are still in the spirit of the press conference that was held by the Citizen Front. They say you question the criteria for the selection of participants in the process, consultative process, and then you equally question who to establish the criteria. That you think that a body should be set in place to establish who should take part in the dialogue, and that criteria should equally be established to be able to pinpoint, identify those who are eligible to be part of the national dialogue.
Yes, I think if I go by what you are mentioning as per their press conference.
Yes.
No, you are quoting. So I'm just saying what you are mentioning as per their own press conference.
Yeah.
I see that they are quite on track. Because, you see the confusion in the dialogue now. They are taking the second step before the first. In fact, they are confused. The reason why they are confused is because some of these parameters were not put in place from day one. And when you look at it critically, you will imagine that crisis of this nature, you're supposed to have consultative talks at the level of subdivisions, divisions, region before you go up. The governor of the South Region has earmarked his own data. Meme division, their own date is around what is tomorrow?
Yeah, no, the governor health
is already.
Yeah.
Good.
The
While
Faku is going to hold this, I'm sure, next week.
That is why I say it's a total confusion. While Prime Minister is holding his own up there, those other the LGOs are holding theirs. Very soon, GOs will be holding theirs. It is a confused move. So, what I thought they would have done, if they meant business to maintain peace in this dialogue issue, they should have started from the bottom. You cannot be up according to insubordination. If I were the Prime Minister, all of them suspended and dismissed. I cannot be holding talks as the head as the head of the executive, or let me say head of government, while my subordinates are busy holding meetings.
Maybe instructions were sent.
If the instructions were sent, it's double confusion. So that's why I said it's heading towards doom, unless the state restructures it. I am sorry, the state might think that my problem is I am trying to avoid a scenario whereby we are wasting precious time while casualties on the field are increasing day in, day out. I am trying to avoid a situation whereby we keep wasting state budget, including those who are sitting in the diaspora, who are not even the real people who are fit to talk to somebody in the diaspora and he listens. So at the end of it, where are we heading to? Another jigsaw puzzle game we bring into place. Therefore, if we look at it critically, I am of the opinion that things should have been harmonized. And if it's harmonized means that there should have been a mechanism. I understand by 2 weeks to organize preliminary talks. It's not even yet, because this is a problem that dates 58 years ago and then into the conflicts above 3 years ago. If you look at it critically, there is no magic, I repeat. Even if the state is as wise as King Solomon, then you can take 2 weeks and get a befitting consultation. Besides, if the state had submitted itself and then talking face to face as equal partners with the secessionists, it would have been a different ball game, because proposal would have come out. The state, if you look at the way they're working on the composition, it is about 82-85% on the side of those who are not even the principal actors. It will even go up to about 90%, because when they start holding their talks in Yaoundé, as I see them moving, there's no way the man in the diaspora will ever step foot on this soil. Because when I got the, anyway, you say I'm coming to the issue of Kumba, because that was another ball game here. When I said the whole issue is confused. You know, when I live in a kangaroo system.
You talk about our consultations. 2 weeks is small, but we should also understand that. Should we not also consider the fact that the Bilingualism Commission went on ground and then presented its findings? The Prime Minister was in the Northwest and Southwest region, which means that...
You're calling Bilingualism Commission. That failed in the first communique. The first communique issued at the Prime Minister's office was in French, concerning the program and the date to receive persons that have been teleguided and arranged by the state. It was in French language. Bilingualism Commission is asleep as I speak now. They should not come and be deceiving us here. Continue, sir. Sorry for interrupting you.
They are supposed to be buried by now.
Okay, good evening. What security guarantees will be given to activists across the globe willing to participate in the dialogue? I'm sure these positions have been taken, and the President of the Republic said that nothing was going to happen to those who will be ready to come. But Menda is heavily militarized. This morning, 2 men were killed in Big Mancon today simply because the ministers were lodging at a Yaba hotel. Is that part of the dialogue? Paul is writing from Bamenda. Good evening and thanks for the program. It's Valentine from Bamenda. I've lost 5 members of my family within this crisis. We are not giving up till we come. Okay, my names. New Moses are my names. Okay, Moses, good evening, and we are sorry for your loss. Greetings to all panelists. The government is playing its kangaroo game. The call for dialogue without preconditions is what we all wanted, but the government already gave conditions for the dialogue. So if certain things are not readjusted, I fear it's a failure. Tony from Bamenda, greetings to my hero, Mr. Elvis. Please, thanks for your timely intervention. Permit to ask the person who spoke before, Agbokem, who is talking now, who is a Cameroonian diaspora. Okay, tell Mr. Agbo that 91 or so were no constitutional change, rather they were reforms. and for Tabon Marinos photo. Say permit calls also. Please, we cannot take calls. Cannot control what you can say on air. Good evening. What security guarantees be given activists across the globe willing to participate? Okay, the government has to give those guarantees. This message again. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I am a keen listener to your program. I really buy the idea of Mr. Elvis. Greetings to him. What is happening in Cameroon is an anachronistic demeanor supported by majority hegemony from Mr. Johnson, watching from Limbe. Hi, Mr. Kum, this is just a suggestion. Are you afraid they will close down your TV station? Please always allow those in the panel to talk, and also tell those your engineers to stop fast-forwarding people's voice when they are talking. If not, you are not just streamlining the debate the world is following. By the way, the former of the state is the focal point of the Anglophone problem. Tabot Machiavelli in Yaoundé. Please, Tabot, what you may observe may be a problem of, it's not from the technicians. There's no technician that can fast forward what is being said. It's a technical problem. Hello, Mr. Kumlenat. Please, I'm a keen follower to your program. Okay. Thank you for writing. Good evening to all the panelists. What the president called a major dialogue is more of a monologue because it has a lot of mumbo jumbo. For me, the bridge builder, writing from Bamenda, lots of messages from Bamenda. This evening, we move over to the newsroom to follow the news with Beldrin Blanche.
Seeking a career in agriculture? Consider St. Louis Higher Institute of Agriculture, where students can build their interest in various farming systems by tailoring their study of agriculture to production, processing, and marketing agribusinesses, making them job providers and not seekers. St. Louis Higher Institute of Agriculture offers relevant practical education developed and delivered by experts and teachers who believe in teaching by demonstration. St. Louis Complex also offers through its Higher Institute of Medical Studies professional HND in nursing, midwifery, physiotherapy, pharmacy technology, medical lab sciences, dental therapy, radiology, and ultrasonography. We are located at Bonaberin Double opposite Nestle. Contact us on 678-435-138 or 677-764-674.
Being one of more than 200 majors of HipMat, I am proud of my success. It all began at HipMat.
I am a CEO. I coach and lead a team of salespeople. I don't hesitate to tell them the vision was planted and molded by HipMat.
Today, I stand on a pedestal of experienced and committed lecturers. The foundation was laid by HipMat.
For over a decade, HipMat's credibility and ministerial recognition have trained more than 15,000 professionals in business management and engineering from HND to BTech, MBA, and what have you. With an outstanding partnership with the University of Bamenda for BTech and MBA programs, our undoubted commitment to your show's success is a reflection of the future you painted. The Higher Institute of Business Management and Technology, HipMat, a university for professionals.
Access HIP's Higher Institute of Professional Studies is offering a platform for zealous young persons to procure an education of reputable standards to fit into today's competitive job market. With effective bilingual education and 22 years of experience, Access HIPS offers HND, Bachelor and Master's programs in Management, Legal Affairs, Shipping, Logistics and Transport Management, Accountancy, and a lot more. Admissions are currently going on, and you can contact the numbers 652-971-020 or 679-441-072. Access HIPS, creating and molding professionals for quality job. Antonio Consecao has been appointed head coach of the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon. His Eminence Christian Cardinal Tumi, main convener of the Anglophone General Conference, has submitted a 400-page proposal to Prime Minister John Gote ahead of the national dialogue scheduled for September 30 to October 4 in Yaoundé. Good evening and welcome to the 7:45 Prime News on My Media Prime. My name is Genda Pelgin Blanche King. To begin the news, activities to mark the 2019 International Peace Day has been launched in Douala. The launching ceremony that brought together students, teachers, and civil society activists stressed on the need for peace to return in Cameroon and the world at large. Mechuga Stanley was in attendance and brought back the following report.
We want peace! We want peace! The International Day for Peace, commemorated each year on September 21, was established in 1981 by a unanimous United Nations Resolution 36/37 to strengthen the ideals of peace both within and amongst all nations and people. Prior to the 2019 edition on the theme, Climate Action for Peace, some peace crusaders converged on the campus of Patrick Foundation Anglo-Saxon Secondary School, Douala, to add their voices to the peace campaign in Cameroon.
We believe that peace in itself is part of creation because God, from the time He created man, He had meant that man should go and enjoy the beautiful world. And of course, even with the distortion that along the line people could witness pain, this kind God still sent the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ, to come and, free mankind from pain. And so we believe that with what we are going through in Cameroon at this particular point, there's no other person that we can look onto apart from looking onto Jesus, the Prince of Peace. Other countries have gone through difficult times like this, and we believe that if it begins with the children, with these young ones, for them celebrating peace, they will grow with it, and Cameroon will become a beautiful society.
The young peace crusaders used the ceremony to sing for peace. Act for peace and recite poems for peace. The Presbyterian Church in Cameroon's Peace Office decorated some of the students with stickers bearing messages of peace and love, as well as a peace badge to some teachers and students, commissioning them to spread peace in the world.
Heavy downpour has caused floods in most parts of the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. Neighborhoods like Avenue Kennedy, Post Central, amongst others, were greatly affected by the downpour earlier today. Some inhabitants, however, blame this to the poor drainage system of the city. And to something else, His Eminence Christian Cardinal Tumi, main convener of the Anglophone General Conference, AGC, has submitted a 400-page proposal to Prime Minister John Gote ahead of the national dialogue. Let's now have an excerpt from the Cardinal.
We have summarized everything in what I said to the Prime Minister in 2 pages. We're aiming at peace. That is our goal. And for that to take place, We think that we should know that it is God who governs us and the world, and that every one of us will render account of his or her actions. We are convinced that during this dialogue, the truth should prevail. By the truth, I mean that whatever everybody will be saying should be in agreement with what he or she is thinking. That is truth. If you are telling somebody something that does not correspond to your thought, you are lying. So we must be open to one another. Now, all of us should know that whatever we have to say as far as the political life of our country is concerned is his or her opinion. Opinion is an affirmation I hold, with the fear that the contradictory opinion of the other might be the right thing to accept. Therefore, we should also come into this dialogue with what I call intellectual honesty. When you are convinced that what the other person is saying is what is good for our nation, you have to bow down. We have handed over 2 documents to the Prime Minister. One is called RAC. We sent out a questionnaire, and about 1,000 people reacted all over the world, and we summarize it, so to say, in a book that is has about 400 pages. But that book is summarized for those who are lazy to read the big one, so that they can read it in 40 minutes and have an idea of what is in the more elaborated book. We have given all those documents to the Prime Minister. It's left to them to exploit it as they wish. We have been invited to the meeting and we accepted. So therefore, we are praying now as religious leaders that our country should get the peace she enjoyed, because hundreds of thousands of our people are dying and suffering in the bushes. Some are dying of hunger, some are dying of sicknesses. This should not continue.
The Minister of Territorial Administration, Minister Paul Atanganji, was in Bamenda recently to evaluate the security situation of the region. It was also an occasion for him to distribute some relief materials to IDPs of the Anglophone crisis. Details in the following report with Lasha Kinsley.
The Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, has called on the defense and security forces in the Northwest region to fish out all those who buried a woman alive this week in Ngozang, Batibo in Momo Division.
Il y a une justice divine. Ceux terroristes qui ont tué cette femme l'autre jour, qui l'ont enterrée vivante, qu'ils sachent qu'ils vont payer devant Dieu, ils vont payer devant les hommes.
Minister Paul Atanganji equally called on fighters to lay down their weapons and enjoy all the advantages at the disarmament, demobilisation and reintegration centers.
Vous ne pouvez pas faire face à l'armée camerounaise, ce n'est pas possible. Mais le président Paul Biya, qui est le père de la nation, vous donne une deuxième chance à travers ce grand dialogue. Chacun doit aller au dialogue sans aucune condition, sans préalable, pour donner sa contribution.
Apart from chairing a security meeting of the Northwest region, which was his main mission to the region, he equally handed over some relief materials, such as food, mattresses, amongst others, to some internally displaced persons of the Anglophone crisis.
Out of the country, the former president of Tunisia is no more. He died on Thursday, September 19, 2019 at a hospital in Saudi Arabia after a protracted illness. Details with Emilienne Wami in the French language.
Triste nouvelle, il s'agit bien du décès de l'ancien président tunisien Ben Ali qui a régné pendant 23 ans sur la Tunisie et contrôlait tout. Il prend le pouvoir le 7 novembre 1987 après un coup d'État médical contre le père de l'indépendance du pays. Après des études en France, il mène une carrière très discrète et efficace. Il est ensuite nommé à la tête de la Sûreté nationale, puis entre en politique et occupe successivement le poste de ministre de l'Intérieur et celui de Premier ministre. À son arrivée à la tête de l'État, il a 51 ans et il est accueilli avec beaucoup de méfiance par le peuple. Mais très vite, il promet des réformes et s'engage à démocratiser le pays. Aux prochaines élections, après son premier mandat, il fut réélu à 4 reprises brillamment par le peuple tunisien avec plus de 94% des voix. Seulement, il était reproché de ne pas être un président avec un grand respect des droits de l'homme. Bien qu'il était loué pour avoir défendu les droits de la femme et pour s'être battu pour développer le secteur du tourisme en Tunisie, qui a attiré de nombreuses entreprises étrangères. Mais le pays sombre après dans la corruption, le chômage et d'autres mots encore qui, en 2011, poussent le peuple à dire « assez, c'est assez ». Le peuple se révolte et cette situation fait son plein au mois de janvier 2011. Le 14 de ce même mois, Ben Ali décide de prendre la fuite pour se réfugier en Arabie Saoudite où il y demeure malgré les graves sentences prononcées à son endroit pour ses crimes commis, notamment les peines d'emprisonnement à perpétuité prononcées par les juges tunisiens. Ben Ali fit de l'Arabie Saoudite son pays de résidence en tant que réfugié jusqu'à ce qu'il décède le jeudi 19 septembre 2019 dernier dans un hôpital du dit pays de suite de longues maladies.
In sports, Antonio Consecao is the new head coach of the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon. His appointment came late this evening from the Cameroon Football Federation. With that, we end today's edition of Prime News on My Media Prime. Antonio Consecao has been appointed head coach of the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon. His Eminence Christian Cardinal Tumi, main convener of the Anglophone General Conference, has submitted a 400-page proposal to the Prime Minister head of government ahead of the national dialogue planned to take place from September 30 to October 4. Thanks for watching. The news was produced by Ewane Eli, coordinated by Lasha Kinsley. My name is Genda Pelgin Blanche King. Till we meet again on Monday, stay tuned to My Media Prime. The second part of Prime Hour continues with Kum Leonard and his panelists. Good night.
Being one of more than 200 majors of Hipmat, I am proud of my success. It all began at Hipmat.
I am a CEO. I coach and lead a team of salespeople. I don't hesitate to tell them the vision was planted and molded by Hipmat.
Today, I stand on a pedestal of experienced and committed lecturers. The foundation was laid by Hipmat.
For over a decade, Hipmat's credibility and ministerial recognition have trained more than 15,000 professionals in business management and engineering from H&D to BTech, MBA, and what have you. With an outstanding partnership with the University of Bamenda for BTech and MBA programs, our undoubted commitment to your show's success is a reflection of the future you painted. The Higher Institute of Business Management and Technology, Hipmat, a university for professionals.
Greetings everyone and thanks for joining us once again on In the Press on Prime Hour. On what is making news today in Cameroon, Grand National Dialogue called by President Paul Biya will constitute the biggest package on today's In the Press on Prime R. We begin with Loswa newspaper, which reports on the pre-consultative talks ongoing at the Star Building, prelude to the National Dialogue, as the Secretary General of the UPC party led a delegation to the PM's office Thursday. The paper also took interest in the efforts of President Paul Biya to assist IDPs of the Anglophone crisis, as Minister Paul Atanganji continues with the distribution of some relief materials in Bamenda. While Investigation newspaper revisits the motive behind the 5-day sit-in strike called by lawyers in Cameroon. The paper is worried if the lawyers' strike is not another plot by the lawyers against the state of Cameroon. L'Oeil du Sahel of this day took interest in the living condition of the population of the far north region of Cameroon. According to the paper, the far north region is the poorest region in Cameroon, with very poor and deplorable educational and health infrastructures. While the national bilingual daily Cameroon Tribune dedicates its front page to the audience granted AGC delegation at the Star Building, led by His Eminence Christian Kadinantumi, during which proposals contained in a 400-page document on the forthcoming national dialogue were handed to the PM, Chief Dr. Joseph Diongute, as the post-weekender carries the doubt of a British diplomat on the success of the Grand National Dialogue called by President Paul Biya. The Guardian Post, on its part, focuses on the delegation dispatched by government to the diaspora to convince Ambazonia to take part in the dialogue. The paper described the mission as tough. That does it for In the Press on Prime R.
Welcome back. You're watching Prime R on Prime R on My Media Prime. We thank you, Lasha, for that review of the press, and to you, Perlin Blanche, for the news presentation. The breaking news in Cameroon today says Cameroon has a new coach. Who is this coach? Let's follow the report by Metuge Stanley to announce who the new coach is.
The 57-year-old Portuguese-born Antonio Conceição da Silva is the new head trainer of the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon after his appointment by officials of the Cameroon Football Federation on September 20th, 2019. The former Portuguese right-back has an 11-year career with 3 clubs in his native land, Portugal. Since after his retirement in 1999, he switched to coaching SC Braga's junior and senior football teams. His coaching career has taken him to Romania, Portugal and Cyprus before his appointment as head trainer of Cameroon's senior male football team, replacing Clarence Clyde Seedorf and Patrick Clovet, who were dismissed in July 2019 after Cameroon's dismal performance at the 2019. Coaching the national team of Cameroon will be his first national coaching job, as well as his first experience in Africa. The 57-year-old will be assisted by ex-Cameroonian international Francois Omambik, Jacques Songo as goalkeeper trainer, and Professor William Gashu as team doctor. It should be recalled that Cameroon is bracing up for the 2021 AFCON
and the coming of a new head coach is a sigh of relief to many football stakeholders because the time to prepare is now.
Thank you, Metuge, for telling us who the new head coach of the Indomitable Lions is. We hope that he's going to do far better than what Clarence Seedorf and Patrick Kluivert could do for Cameroon, especially with the announcement that we are going to be hosting the Nations Cup. I know that it's going to be an uphill task for him, but we wish him the best, and we equally wish the best to our darling team, the Indomitable Lions. We continue with our discussions here. We stay with your press conference, Citizens Front. Now, you see the speech omitted the capital position that that is occupied by the consortium, though they have been outlawed, and you equally say there is need for the release of all those arrested in connection with the ongoing Anglophone crisis.
Yeah, in fact, that comes in line with our definition of who is supposed to sit on this dialogue table.
Okay.
We know that, like he himself made mention in his speech, negotiations or dialogue, in quotes, was being carried out at that time with the consortium, and we saw that there were some expectations. We think that there can be no dialogue without the consortium being on that table. We also think that Anglophones arrested in the course of this crisis, whose voices were also heard. We saw, for example, Mancho BBC, what he did in Bamenda. We saw that people followed him. People listened to him. We saw that, we think that Mancho and some of those who are arrested, the Sisiku and the rest, must be part of this dialogue table. The separatists, those who believe in secession, until proven otherwise, we are all Cameroonians. And if this dialogue is for Cameroonians, then we believe that even those who believe in the secession of Cameroon should also be brought on that dialogue table. If we need to call their attention to our unification under a unity state, it is on that table. They must be there. We also think that the armed groups must be part of this dialogue, and also the Boko Haram victims, because, like the president said, it is now a national dialogue, which means people who have been affected and who are even in prison, because, mind you, there are people in prison because of the Boko Haram crisis who are also innocent. The same things that we are facing in the south and northwest region is also happening in the north region, where people are arrested and sentenced to, at times, without even legal procedures. We think that those who are also involved in the post-electoral elections, that's the 2018 presidential election, must be part of this dialogue. I'm talking about Maurice Kamto and his team. And personally, I am a bit shocked at the reaction from especially members of the CPDM towards the memo of MRC, the CRM political party, asking that their people should be freed. And I'm sure with our own position, many people are also asking, like, okay, what has the MRC, the CRM, got to do with the Anglophone crisis? No, we are talking about Cameroonians here, and we think that all these people must sit on the table. And most importantly, I think the comrade said when he was talking that the president invited everybody, but nobody.
What do you mean by nobody? We have seen the president.
He was not clear.
Making
Leonard, our point here on those to participate in this dialogue is that Mr. Biya, the Supreme Biya, the almighty Bia, as he thinks he is, must sit on that dialogue table. This is a sovereign dialogue. And this sovereign dialogue demands that everybody sits on that table, including Mr. Bia himself. He must sit on that table. He is not more Cameroonian than any other person. And he's even responsible for what Cameroon is today. So it is unthinkable of that there will be dialogue and Mr. Bia is not there. No, he must sit on that dialogue table.
Yeah, but he has representatives. He has given his...
it is not a matter of representative.
The Prime Minister...
It is a sovereign... When we talk about a sovereign dialogue, it means that all resolutions taken in on that dialogue table must be implemented without conditions, whether he likes it or not. Because, mind you, for us, members of Stand Up for Cameroon, we think that the highest resolution that must come up on that table on that day must be political transition without Mr. Bia. And he should be ready.
So Mr. Bia will organize a dialogue and then you people come and...
He is not organizing. He is not organizing. Mind you, it is not a favor. Listen, it is not a favor that President Bia is doing to Cameroonians by calling for this dialogue. It is a sovereign dialogue. And he is not more than Cameroon. He is there. He is the president of Cameroon. And if Cameroonian thinks that at the end of that dialogue, a political transition without him is the way forward for Cameroon, then he must bow to it. And that is why when we'll be coming down to our letter, we have talked about the guarantees that resolutions of that dialogue are going to be implemented.
Okay.
And one of the conditions is that it must be sovereign.
That's the question I want to ask him, because we saw the tripartite conference hold in Yaoundé, and then followed by the Constitutional Commission, and effectively a constitution was established, the 1996 constitution was established. Until date, most of the provisions of that law has not been implemented, especially the decentralization phases that were expected to have taken root in Cameroon 23 years. Down the line, nothing has been done. Like he is saying, what are those guarantees that you people want put in place to ensure that whatever is going to be arrived at the dialogue is implemented? Should these resolutions be given timeline, or timelines or time frame within which they must be executed?
Okay, I'll first of all talk about the parties, people involved, to be involved in the dialogue table. I've been seeing people going into the Prime Minister's office for pre-discussion consultations.
Yeah.
And it seems as the government does not know that PAP, that is Northwest and Southwest, is a bastion of support for PAP. And if government does not call or listen to PAP that have been actively involved during this crisis, I will say that this dialogue will be a loud-sounding, inviolate occasion that will lead this country to another disastrous abyss. We need to look at those particular parties that have been actively involved. That is the first. Secondly, the reason why we are saying that there must be preconditions to guarantee that what happened in 1991 should not repeat itself again. This dialogue should be in form of laws. Anything that will arrive at the dialogue table should be in form of law, which means that a revisit to the Constitution, we need to look at the form of state and the nature of the state.
Yeah, but there are dispositions of the constitutions that are not being respected. The Constitution says that people should declare their assets before holding certain positions. It is not being respected.
Yes, that's why we are saying that when it comes to dialogue, we are only respecting the issue of this dialogue to prove to the world that this government is not ready for any sincere dialogue, because it has been proven since 1991 during the tripartite conference. The term of mandate, the presidential term of mandate was 5 years. Two mandate, 5 years each. But he agreed and finally changed everything. The decentralization process begins when he added decentralization to the Ministry of Territorial Administration.
And today, he has separated the administration. So we don't have to talk about decentralization. I think on that day, anything that we have to arrive at, it should be a relook into our constitution of this country.
Yeah, but if the constitution is relooked into and dispositions are not taken to ensure its implementation, what would change?
When I say we should relook into the constitution means there are many things that we need to amend. There are many things that we have to supplement in that constitution.
For example?
We need to talk about federation. We need to go back. That's why I talk of revisiting the 1961 constitution. The Article 47 have been violated of the 1961 constitution. We need to go back there and re-establish that Article 47 because it has been violated. We should not pretend as if we are not faced with the reality of the country. We need to go back to that 1961 constitution, reinstate Article 47 that have been violated. Then we can now start discussing as Cameroonians. Because since that Article 47 has been violated, if it's not reinstated, then I'm sure there is nothing like dialogue in this country.
Okay,
that dialogue will not yield fruit.
Okay, may not yield fruit. Fatayong, you are very versed with what happened in the tripartite conference. Some very lofty ideas were arrived at there, though some of the proposals of the AEC 1 and 2, because it held because Anglophones wanted to gather themselves to go present their views at that conference, which were not taken into consideration. But at the end of the day, certain resolutions were taken, which have never been implemented till date. People are called to the dialogue table today. What clear dispositions should be taken to ensure that whatever is arrived at in Yaoundé is fully implemented within specific timelines?
Well, it boils down to the issue of the principles of neutrality and the full principles that will respect the inclusive dialogue. As I said earlier, a while ago, when you put in place a wrong formula, you get the wrong answer.
Yeah.
It is on this light, or it is in this light, that you see me saying that it has failed woefully. Because I don't need to contact a soothsayer. If I look at the compositions, in the tripartite, it was still the government sharing it. And when we know that there is lack of trust between the people and the government, government tells you he will do this, he will not do it. The promises we have received from the government, we are still daydreaming till today. There are many of them. I don't want to get into the polemics of what government has said and what government has not done. I said from time to time, the moment we are using, because the tripartite we're talking about is repeating itself now in another form. Because the composition of the tripartite are the similar compositions we have here. Many of them members of the ruling party, many of them cousins and nephews to those who are in government. At the end of it, it's a family meeting. So we are heading towards a family meeting. I'm happy some people call it a monologue. Because when you look at it critically, when you look at the principle of neutrality, it is completely absent. And so the moment people lack trust in you as a government, you need to put in place different parameters for the trust to come back. If they go to this meeting in Yaoundé, any decision they take, I'll be the last individual to believe in that decision. Because I know that the tripartite issue has come back full force. So in a nutshell, the only thing they can do, as I said earlier, will be that they leave the seat of, I am surprised we're talking about already a chairman of the dialogue. It's abnormal, absurd that in an issue of conflict resolution, we're already talking about a chairperson designated by one party involved in the conflict. How do you expect the other main actor of the conflict to feel? That you choose your own son to mediate in an issue between you and your neighbor. No, Cameroon comes on, your neighbor will not be comfortable because any decision arrive at, he will believe that your son favors you because he's the chair of that meeting.
But the son is an Anglophone.
Anglophone is not the issue here. They have one system of reasoning. Anglophones or not, all CPD officials reason the same. That's the reason why the elites, called them the elites in the Northwest Southwest, from the time the killing started, have stayed mute. Meaning that because their counterparts in the French-speaking regions stayed mute, they too have to follow the trend because they are eating peanuts. That's where we are today. And the same people we don't even want to see, because our suffering emanated from their hands, because they did not tell the head of state the real version that we are suffering. And that's why when the crisis started, we were on air. When one of the ministers said there's no Anglophone problem. And today, he's running helter-skelter to mediate or to give things to IDPs caused by the Anglophone problem. So at the end of it, we don't have elites credible. I'm sorry to tell you. When they were holding their sessions there at the Synod and whatever I said, I was waiting to see if they were credible.
Are you not credible?
I am credible, but I cannot mandate myself being credible.
Are you not an elite?
And I am an elite, but I cannot mandate myself until some other people who see you credible mandate yourself. The state is the player. The state is the referee. You cannot appoint yourself the referee. But if the citizens have said, we prefer the Prime Minister to be our chair, it would have been okay. I don't have any problem with the Prime Minister.
Okay.
Prime Minister governs well in his sphere of competence, but in this particular dialogue, it's above the state mediating. In fact, for this thing to go through, if we don't get a third party from outside, because if it's a third party only from this very nation, the cunning nature of this Yaoundé regime, we're wasting our time.
You think that if Christian Kanatumi is given this, you will not trust him?
If Christian Kanatumi is given the chance, I will trust him. He will deliberate well and excellently well, but at the level of implementation, the same issues that were arrived at the tripartite government and were not implemented, it will repeat itself here.
Okay.
Therefore, he can only be as a member of the team. But we need a neutral body that comes in to guarantee that whatever decision is taken will be implemented. And I know the Kagaro system will never accept that.
Good evening to you all in the studio. The bloodshed in Cameroon doesn't mean a thing to the government because all the ministers, including the boss, needs okay. It's also an easy means for, well, okay, only God can help Cameroon. Papa J, writing from Bamenda, please, can we be civil and kind? We may disagree with people, but we should love them. At least the Bible demands that from us. Good evening to you all in the studio. We are watching from Munya. The failure in organizing a genuine dialogue and providing lasting solutions today might just be creating an Ambazonian Republic tomorrow, I'm sure. After the national dialogue, there will be. Okay, Mr. Enes from Munya. Mr. Enes, good evening to you and you all watching us from Munya. Good evening to you, Mr. Leo, and your co-panelists. Too much criticism will only add more salt to the injury. Let's wait for the dialogue to come and see what it would afford instead of condemning it and encouraging more violence. I'm Ngwa, writing from mile 16, that is in Boli Famba. Good evening to you, my brother Ngwa. I like the way Mr. Elvis is talking. God is watching the government. Eric is writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you, Eric. Good evening once more. We should understand that laws are made for the interest of man, not man living for the interest of the law. And for me, the bridge builder, writing from Bamenda. Hello, Mr. Kumlenat, please. I am a keen follower of the program. You are stopping your panelists from making their voices and opinions to air. Allow them to talk. Edwin is writing from Bamenda. Edwin, I'm the moderator now. I should do my work, except you want me to keep quiet. Good evening to you all in the studio. It's Fred from K-Town, that's in Kumba. For the dialogue to take place successfully, there must be the release of President Sisisiku Ayuk Tabe. Good evening. Why would they be sending delegations to diaspora when they are still holding their leader under detention? What can guarantee their safety? Respect to Mr. Elvis, your type are few. I wish there can be an opportunity for you to represent us at this dialogue to avoid the same mistake of Fumban. It's Mbenge, writing from Tiku. Maybe he will go there, they'll give him money or they'll give him billions. Elvis will change. So, for meaningful national dialogue to take place, there should first be all Anglophone conference to prepare a common Anglophone position. Anything short of that is not so valid. It's veiled attempt to divide and conquer. Now, who are Anglophone leaders? I lose my son and I need to know my leader to post my questions. Chair. From Ilwani Balundo Bamoso subdivision. Thank you, Chair. We accept our condolence for the loss of your son. Greetings to you all in the studio. I think this dialogue is a CPDM affair and not an inclusive dialogue as per se. The delegates sent to the diaspora members of parliament who failed to say even a word concerning the crisis, but are now heads of delegations to talk to people. What a disgrace, shameless parliamentarians. Christopher, writing from Bamenda. Good evening to everybody in the studio. Sorry. Shouting left and right, of which you know the truth. Keep on shouting. One day you will come back to the truth. Nyuki, writing from Kumbu. Please, I believe if we can identify a Cameroonian diaspora, we start the beginning of our peace and understanding. Thanks. Okay, we move over to our second topic that has to do with the pre-talks that are going on in Yaoundé. Mr. Agbotem, that move, what is it aimed at? To gather more information? To feed the dialogue discussions with?
It's a waste of time.
Okay.
To be very sincere, I think just like the Bible said, know the truth and only the truth can set you free. Mr. Leonard, what better consultation can be done other than the one the Prime Minister went to Northwest and Southwest? What? Is he telling us that it was a waste of time?
What the Bilingualism Commission did because they went to the Northwest and Southwest?
Let's leave the Bilingualism Commission. Let's talk about the same person carrying out consultation today. He said he went to Northwest and Southwest to go and touch, in fact, a touch-based mission in which I'm sure he witnessed everything because the very day he was in Boya, we had heavy gunshots to the extent he was blocked in his hotel room for some time before going out. No, you see, this is just an expression of the bad faith of the Biya regime. At the same time, Mr. Chief Diongute is carrying out the waste of time consultation. His minister, Atanganji, is in Bamenda threatening people. Do you know that there is a language for dialogue? How can you at the same time go for dialogue and at the same time threatening people? In fact, these people, are they humans? You ask, because a lot of incoherence to the extent, not only we don't trust them, but we ask ourselves, are these guys human? It doesn't go. We expect, if the Biya regime is conscious of dialogue, to change their language. You cannot be going down and calling people terrorists and at the same time calling those same people on the table. No. And just like he said when he was talking, that whether we like it or not, the separatists and the Biya regime must sit together. Now, there is something we must understand. From the start of this crisis, we have seen the Biya regime used provocative languages. Languages that have been pushing the people. And we see that up till today. Do you know that the consultation, there are people the Prime Minister has deliberately refused receiving? There are delegations. So when we talk about consultation, and you do selective consultation, just like he said, which I am also of the opinion, it's a failed dialogue. Because when you start by doing selective consultation, there are some people you can receive, and there are some people you cannot receive, then there is a problem.
Okay.
There is a very big problem.
There is a very
So I think that this consultation is just a waste of time. It's a show, just like the one he did when he went to Northwest and Southwest, and it's going to yield to nothing. Because, mind you, Chief Diongute is an Anglophone. Mr. Biya is the one that headed the commission Ayijo created to solve the Anglophone crisis. These two people can't pretend to go for any consultation. They know the truth about the Anglophone crisis. Yeah. They are capable enough to look at Cameroonians face to face and tell them, we are sorry because we have failed you. These two, Mr. Bia and Dion Gute, have failed this nation. They can't pretend about it. What doesn't Chief Dion Gute know about Anglophones? Is he not an Anglophone? Must he do consultation to know that Anglophone demands that our rights must be respected? Must he do consultation to know that the common law is not respected and that in the common law you are found innocent until proven guilty? Yeah, must he do consultation to understand that the Anglophone man wants an indirect rule and not a direct rule?
This is also a forum. This is a forum to
issues.
Discuss and address these issues.
Discussion is different from consultation. What I am saying is that Mr. Chief Dion Gute, permit me, because he's a chief and I am from Southwest, I should call him chief, is wasting our time.
Okay, it's wasting.
Because he knows the truth more than every one of us.
Irrespective of the fact that you say he's wasting time, he has been receiving people who saw, we saw an excerpt of His Eminence Christian Calvin Matumi, who was telling the press what he told the Prime Minister. Yesterday, we saw people like Cabral Libi, Gaga Haman Aji, Serge Espoir Matumba. What do you make of those casted for the pre-talks?
Okay, well, as I rightly said,
at least they have a mastery of what's happening.
I don't know, we talk of Anglophone crisis. And we call people like Matumba, as you call him, Garga, Cabral Libi. These are people who are answerable to the government. And they will judge in favor of the government. Even the consultation at the level of the constitution is waste of our resources. It's wastage of our resources. So the government keep calling his own people for pre-consultation discussion. What type of thing is that? The real people involved, they know them. The government know the real people involved, the people to be called for, the people to dialogue with, the people to consult. I made mention of PAP, the party popularly known in the Northwest and Southwest region, a party that has been involved in this crisis, helping our refugees, helping our internally displaced, helping our brothers who are in the bushes. The government cannot call them. Why? The government cannot release Sisi Kwayo, Tabe and the rest to come and discuss, to come on the dialogue table. Why? He cannot grant what they call general amnesty to those in the diaspora. He cannot create a conducive atmosphere for them to come and to the dialogue table. Why? Because when they say they have sent a delegation to go there and discuss with them, that is a fake delegation. How many times have they been there? On several occasions. What have they brought positively from that discussion with those in the diaspora? As my co-panelist earlier said, John Gute is an Anglophone. Paul Biya, His Excellency Paul Biya, is a president of this country. What are those things that they don't know about it that they need consultations? Instead, they will bring at least and call on those particular people concerned to come on the dialogue table and discuss. Okay, for instance, Cardinal Tumi came with a 400-page proposal. 400 pages. Proposal of 400 pages. How many days do we have to sit on the dialogue table? Who can go through that 400 pages? Who will go through? So it's rather some sort of storytelling, window decoration, because this dialogue, I'm sure the head of state called this dialogue to favor him because the United Nations General Assembly was around the corner. This dialogue is not a sincere dialogue because we want to look at the real factors surrounding a sincere dialogue. You said this dialogue is a failed dialogue.
Why is it a failed dialogue when it has not even? Why not give it a chance, an opportunity for people?
Because the government have failed to give it a chance. They have called for a dialogue, but they have failed to give it a chance because the main actors are not called upon to sit on the table. For example, those in prison, those arrested in connection to the Anglophone crisis are still in prison. They are not called on the dialogue table. And you are saying that those in the diaspora that have been actively involved should come to the country, whereas their comrades are in prison. They are not that stupid. Which means that you announce a dialogue
and then put an embargo for a dialogue to take place. Because a dialogue that will take place without the key actors being involved means there is no dialogue.
Are you saying that the PAP is a key actor?
The PAP is one of the key actors. Yes, because the PAP party, that's the Popular Action, the People's Action Party, known today as the Popular Action Party, has been actively involved since the beginning of this crisis. We've seen them in Nigeria helping the refugees. We've seen them actively in the salons helping those in the bushes.
The PAP?
Yes.
The Aya Foundation or the
The Aya Foundation also, you need to know that the Aya Foundation is part of PAP. Since parties cannot go with humanitarian action at the same time, the reason why he was mandated to be doing that. So know that Aya Abines Foundation is part and parcel of PAP.
So Aya Abine is a member of PAP?
Of course.
Okay.
So if you call for a dialogue and you put an embargo for key actors to be present, then there's no dialogue. You call for a dialogue and the person to mediate, to facilitate the dialogue, it is at the same time the player, they refuse, then there is no dialogue.
Okay, there is no dialogue. Good evening to you all in the studio. I love your program. Let him release Ayuk Tabi and everybody. You can't have a problem with my father, then you are coming for me to dialogue. Berkeley, writing from Cape Town, that is Kumba. The only honest, wise, and good representative for phones is Mr. Abdul Karim, the Muslim scholar in Bamenda. He is good and very intelligent, and he knows everything surrounding the fiasco the government is trying to play now. The Muslim scholar is more courageous to face the CPDM elites who are placed to talk for us in the so-called dialogue. Please, don't call. We cannot take a call. Just send a text message. We'll read them out like we are doing now. Good evening to you all at the studio. I'm Frank Nivaru from Bamenda. To me, the government is playing games with Cameroonians. How do they believe that only white men or foreigners can coach or head the national team? It means we Cameroonians are not credible, but for the case of resolving the crisis, they choose themselves. Okay. With all due respect to Mr. Biya, he knows what to do. Let him do it. I like the gentleman who said Mr. Biya has invited everyone but no one. Mr. Biya in person is a good man, but he is giving us a different thoughts. Let our head of state do what a head of state should do in times like this. Yes, we are not the president. Stop the calls, please. We are not the president, and he who wears the shoes knows where it pains. But let our head of state do his job. Thanks. We cannot take any call, please. Just send us your message. We are going to be reading them out like we have been doing with others. Good evening again, my good people of the dialogue should move smoothly. Let be a total absence of such people from CPDM and many others. Okay, you are citing names. We don't want names. Greetings to the panelists. Which type of dialogue are we talking about when the military is out here in Bamenda killing people just today? When the military, okay. Thank you for that message. Good evening to you all. Continue in that spirit, Mr. Obi. You speak sense. Go ahead, Papa. How can we send contributions or consultations to a PM? PM's office is screened. It's like you send what you say in the dialogue table and we check and give you what you have to say. Don't call, please. Good evening. Now that everyone is talking about the Anglophone crisis and the president himself has acknowledged the problem, my question now is, why is Ayuk Tabi and co behind bars? What is their crime? Remy is writing from Mutengene. Chio Stara, please, Mr. Leo, help me thank Elvis for me. CPDM are to hold their national come together, on September 30th to the 4th of October. Not national dialogue. Chio Stara in mile 14, Boya. Okay, Chios, that's my classmate. Good evening to you and the family. Hope everybody is doing well. Let's move on with the discussion. Elvis Fat Tayong, the governor of the Southwest region, His Excellency Bernard Okalia Bilai held a consultative talk in Boya, where he said that he was saying that whoever knows where the separatists are, they should invite them for a second meeting that he's planning so that he can talk with them. Is that already the bottom-top approach that you said was supposed to have started?
Well, I'm even confused in the entire movement. I mean, confused of the first order. And another scenario comes in. I don't know whether the administrators are all right, too. Maybe they are all right, God bless them. Because when I got that communique from the governor, I said, truly the system is confused. Because the head of state, the head of government himself, Chief Dr. John Guti, in his agenda has not even extended that hand directly the way I see the governor and his GO and his SGO MMA doing.
No, but the president made mention of armed groups.
I am still coming.
Okay.
I'm still coming. When he made mention of armed groups, accepted, and then the governors take the relay, and they are calling out on the arms group to come in. The next question is, when arms conflict are concerned, is the armed person or the arms group to listen to their bosses or to listen to somebody who's not their boss? Gets to the fore or where you have sheep flock. If you are not a shepherd, can somebody comes in who is not the shepherd of those flock and calls a particular sheep and the sheep comes? It can never happen. Those who do animal rearing, they understand what I'm talking about. You can move into a herd of cows or cattle and you meet a herdsman. You have never been there before. And you call even a cattle and the cattle follows you. But the headman who knows all the cattle can even call one by name and the cattle comes up, gets close to him. It is to say that those actions are counterproductive and have failed. Because what is the guarantee? We understand that when the issues of consultation was hot in Bamenda at the Northwest Governor's Office, when government failed to arrive in a consensus with the consultative leaders, the next morning was a communique that it was already banned. And the next few hours, the leaders were haunted. What guarantee does the government give that history of that Bamenda will not repeat itself if these separatists come to table? That's why I've been saying that the government is dancing a Bafia dance. They were supposed to pass through the separatist leaders because the person who sponsors these boys, gives them money, gives them arms, is the only one who can talk to them and they listen. When you come from nowhere and say, I want to talk with you, the boys will look at you as if you are a lunatic because they understand that coming there will mean suicide mission. Because if they come to that kind of meeting, they will be afraid. The government might have good intentions, but that lack of trust that exists between the separatists and the government will not make them to come. I want to see the generals convened in a meeting to be present. Then, I personally will give, I call that gun salute to the government. Because when I look at it critically, I am not saying they should not come. But I doubt if any normal person in his normal reasoning faculty will take that risk. But if the leaders had called them, please, generals, we're instructing you, go and attend this meeting for this reason, they could give a benefit of doubt and attend. That's why I said that if this meeting was holding in a neutral ground, accepted both by the government and the secessionists, be rest assured that the generals would have been able to travel out of Cameroon and to see. I have been given a story of South Sudan, and the government has refused to understand. Preliminary talks concerning the conflict in Sudan, South Sudan, and even the mainland Sudan took place out of Sudan. South Sudan, the preliminary talks started in DRC. They had another one in Egypt. Then they went down to Zimbabwe. When they were sure that the things were ripe, that's when they carried out the final phase now into Juba. I don't know why we don't understand. I will have professors of political science, international relations, they are all there in Yaoundé sleeping. These are things that should have told the government and explained to the government that we think if we have a neutral ground accepted by both parties. The generals, even if they are in Boyo, whatever, I'm sure their leaders in the diaspora will give them money to travel out of the country and meet them at that table if the generals needed to be there. So, let's not, as my brother said here, let's not be wasting time, because time is no longer on our side, because we are tired of the excessive killings and suffering of the people. Let the government, who has the sole responsibility of protecting us, guaranteeing peace and security, take the bull by the horn, and do the right thing.
The government says that the diaspora is supposed to be part of these discussions. Mr. Agbotem, you have seen the list of those who are expected to go to the U.S. and Canada, including our Senator Mbila Moki Charles is supposed to be in the U.S. and Canada. We have another delegation that is supposed to go to Germany, that is in Europe, and Britain. We have the likes of Boni Dashako, who are going to be members of that group. And then another group has to go to Nigeria and South Africa. Great casting.
At times you ask yourself if these guys they are living in our time. You know, the one thing with CPDM is that they operate as if they are not living in our time. Mm-hmm. And at least we say it is said experience is the best teacher. But to Mr. Bia and CPDM members, experience is never a teacher to them. This is not the first time they have been sending people. They sent the same delegation some times ago, and we saw what happened. Some were even molested. We know how it ended. Mm-hmm. You see, Mr. Leonard, the issue we are talking here is the platform itself is a failure.
Okay.
And when the platform of dialogue is a failure, all other actions that come along are failures. You will see these guys are not even going to attend that their nonsense. You see, when you talked earlier of dialogue without preconditions, and we were telling you here that there can never be dialogue without preconditions. The preconditions are meant to create trust in both parties. The preconditions are meant to provoke the desire of participation from both parties. Because mind you see, the Bia regime keeps functioning in their colonial approaches, thinking that, okay, you can just speak and people will follow. We are no more in the 60s or the 70s. People know what they want. These separatist guys from the beginning, we are not the only ones seeing that this dialogue is a failure. They themselves have seen that the dialogue is a failure. Mind you, some of us, at least our first profession is agriculture. We know that for you to reap a huge harvest, there are things you must do. If you don't do them, you are not going to harvest anything. It's not because you have a large farm. If you have a large farm and you don't understand the season, you don't know that this is the planting season, this is the clearing season, and this is what I'm supposed to do at this particular time, you will harvest nothing, Mr. Leonard. It is a waste of time. And you see, when we talked about the consultation, I keep asking myself, just like the co-panelist was asking, the Prime Minister, who is the sole person mandated as of now to carry out consultation, has not invited separatists. And somebody who is a governor and who is not even sure to participate in this thing. Because in fact, whether we like it or not, people like Governor Okala Bilai are not even supposed to be on the dialogue table. Permit me to say that.
Why?
Because their speeches
Their main stakeholders.
Their species provoked this crisis.
Their main stakeholders.
There are people. No, when we talk about stakeholders,
yeah,
you know what led to a crisis is bitterness, and you cannot solve a problem. There are people who can't sit face to face with Governor Okarabilai, except some action. That's why we said preconditions should be done. No, if somebody like Governor Okarabilai can come today and apologize in front of Cameroonians, we can start considering that some actions are being taken place. Do you know that this Governor Okarabilai calls Anglophones dogs? These are the kind of things that we need to erase them before we sit on this dialogue table.
Yeah, but
these same people, he is inviting them today.
You are a Christian.
We are Christians for sure.
Yeah.
But you know that for there to be forgiveness, somebody must look at you in your eyes and say, please, I'm sorry. We are asking that the regime should be the first to send a hand. And if those who have taken arms don't respond to this hand, then we will know that they are the ones having the problem. But unfortunately, the regime is not even prepared to send a hand. Mind you, even those who are sent to be part of this delegation, are they prepared? Do you know that before you are part of this kind of delegation, you need to be prepared. You need to be coached so that you go there, there is a language you will speak. Just like we saw the minister on the ground using the kind of language that is not supposed to be used today. If these guys go there and speak anyhow, what will be the outcome? Oh, come on, let us be serious. We are not against dialogue, but we are against the kind of dialogue that will waste our time.
You expect the diaspora to be part of this?
They have to be.
How do they come with negotiations?
No.
They are not consulted.
We are talking about the credibility of those who are sent. We are talking about neutrality here. We have people who have some images in this country that if they sit,
Elvis to go and do the negotiation.
I'm not talking about Elvis. Okay. We have people. The same people who created this problem, whether you like it or not, Mr. Leonard, I am an Anglophone. I come from Manfe, Manu Division. We know how our CPDM elites have created more problems to Anglophone than solution. And you expect us to sit with these same people who, do you know that the same people who are part of this delegation have never for once acknowledged that there is an Anglophone problem? And how do you expect us? How do you expect? And that is why in our Citizen Front, we started by pinpointing that the first solution of this Anglophone crisis will be the acknowledgement of an Anglophone problem, which the president did not do when he made his speech on the 10th of September. And you expect that, what are they going out there for? You said there was no Anglophone problem. And today you are the one clamoring to solve the Anglophone problem. You refused yesterday. And you think we are going to take them serious? Oh, no. We are all for dialogue. We want peace to come back. But if it has to come, we think that the regime that is the sole person responsible for the Anglophone crisis must make some concessions and even come up to Cameroonians and tell them we are sorry in our approaches that has led us to be where we are today. From there, we'll consider that they are doing something. But if they have to continue in their show of pretense, trying to behave as if they are, oh, come on. He just said that in Mozambique, the president went to the bush and met people who were fighting. Do you know that that same thing happened in Nigeria? In the time of Goodluck Jonathan. Goodluck Jonathan went and met the guys of the
Niger Delta.
The Niger Delta. He spoke with them. Come on, you're sending delegation out of the country, and these guys are in the bush. You are incapable of going to.
No, but the SDO,
the SDO is calling. The SDO is calling. He's not going.
The SDO
and is he even legitimate? Because nothing has proven that the Prime Minister has sent him.
The SDO,
as of now, the only person we know for consultation is the Prime Minister. Has the Prime Minister mandated anybody to do that? That's the question.
I'm sure the Prime Minister had a meeting with the administrators in Yaoundé last week, where the governor was represented. The governor was present. The two governors of the Northwest and Southwest region, alongside some traditional authorities. I'm sure instructions were given because the SDO for FACO is going to be having a similar meeting in the days ahead, where journalists are expected to even be part of it. We have been called upon to bring our proposals
and sing your song too.
Yeah, at least when the Bilingualism Commission came to Boya, journalists, we went there as a delegation.
Of course, you
we've
play
been
your
consulted
role
at least 3 times. So once again, the SGO of FACO is expecting that we come and. But now,
the same system of
just do your report is preferable.
I sit
are going
and
to
you
propose.
come.
Proposal will
there must be a change of procedure. Let them start going now.
We hear some people are planning to boycott this dialogue. Is boycott an option? Isn't it better to go there, air your view, and if it's not taken, history will bear you witness that you went there and your proposals were not considered.
When you said you heard some people are planning to boycott this dialogue, I call that speculation. How real is that? Now,
no,
I take that to be the government way of telling the world that these people don't want. We are calling them; they don't want to come. No. That is the system of the government.
MRC has stated clearly that if Professor Maurice Kamto, the MRC has said if Professor Maurice Kamto is not released, they are not going to be part of it.
Okay, now, one thing is certain: Maurice Kamto. Let's just forget about the side of Maurice Kamto. This the president rightly said in his speech that this national dialogue concerns mainly the Anglophone crisis. Now, there are conditions in which now, for example, the minister is the one calling people, selecting people who are supposed to be present on the dialogue table. Then tomorrow, PAP, that is very active in the Northwest and Southwest, well supported, if the Prime Minister has not been consulted, and if he does not call them to come on the dialogue table, they will sit behind and say PAP boycotted the dialogue. The same thing like if they don't call CPP. The same thing like if they don't release people like Ayuk and the rest. The same thing like if they don't put necessary conditions so that those in the diaspora should come on the dialogue table, they will say they have called for them and they refuse. The same thing like if they don't put conditions that will enable the fighters, those generals, the restoration fighters to come on the dialogue table, they will turn out tomorrow to tell the world that they call for them and they refused. So it's some sort of game. This dialogue to me is some sort of game, because when you look at the people on that list that the minister called, most of them are answerable to CBT and party. They have the spirit of that regime in them.
So the SDF is answerable to the CPDM party?
That?
The SDF that went there.
Well, you should know that during this crisis, I will say authoritatively, say it here, that SDF has lost popularity in the Northwest and Southwest region, the way it handles the crisis. How? So to me, I think SDF is part and parcel of the CPTM government.
So it was drama they were playing at the national.
It was drama. How can you go in for election when your people are internally displaced? When majority of your population are in Nigeria? When majority of your population are in the bushes? When there is serious war going on in your region?
So you are saying that the SDF
and you go in for election.
The SDF was supposed to boycott the elections.
The SDF was supposed to boycott election to prove it to the world that my people, part of the country, is
now the SDO
serious problems.
Okay, the SDO, we are running out of time. I want to plead with you guys to add me even I don't know, 5 more minutes or 7 more minutes to the normal time, so that we can. Now the SDO for Meme says that he has called, I'm sure, 5 of those leaders of the armed groups. The one of Malende, the one in Dieni, the one of Marumba, and a host of others. He has written their names, their real names, and their alias, that this guy should come. So that tomorrow is Saturday, so we expect that Chamberlain Tuondong, who is a senior divisional officer of Meme Division, is going to be seated with some Ambazonian separatist fighters leaders in Kumba to start the pre-talks so that they can transmit whatever they might have discussed to Yaoundé.
Well, I want...
Quite a courageous move there.
It's a courageous move. Excellent one. Very good. But I want the presidency to listen to this. When the head of state was giving his speech, he said he does not know whom to dialogue with. I'm not therefore. When the head of state gave his speech on the 10th of September, what is 10th of September?
Yes.
He made mention of the fact that he does not even know who to dialogue with. Meaning he had given us the impression that he did not know the exact persons as of now to dialogue with. If his SGO now knows the people and their names, it means that somewhere along the line, the head of state does not know whom to dialogue with, but the SGO knows who to dialogue with. Now, who is speaking the truth? Presidency, I'm asking this question to you. Who is speaking the truth between the head of state and the SGO? Who knows their names? It means he has been collaborating with them. But I would have expected him to have channeled these particular names to the presidency, such that in the course of that speech, the head of state should not have said he does not even know who to dialogue with. At the same time, he's organizing a dialogue. You don't know who to dialogue with. At the same time, you're organizing a dialogue. You see, we are living in a confused state. But I think that if the SGO is given that upper hand, he should have been able in his own capacity as SGO to put in place mechanisms beyond reasonable doubt that will favor these generals.
Okay.
Because I asked somewhere in a forum, what if the SGO promises these generals, please come, we will not arrest you? While they are in a meeting and the hierarchy Yaoundé calls, please detain those people. Will the SGO respect his promise, or he will disobey his hierarchy? Because it's a possibility. The state might want to remand them in custody for some other reasons. The state has all it takes for the reasons best known to them. So, we are on a dangerous bafia dance that we need to be very, very careful on it, or in it rather. Because I thought that the SGO himself would have even channeled this issue and the governor to the prime minister, who's the head of government. Let him be the one to even come down to Kumba and to Duboya to sit on table with those generals. It would mean a lot of sense.
Okay, let me read some of the messages from our televiewers. This one says, Sabia is wrong in his administration, and the people around him see who does he wants to dialogue with. When Mr. Ayuk is in prison, let's stop joking. Let him sit at table and let him release the people. He is responsible for all the killings. We all want a better Cameroon. Let him fix it. I'm watching via tech, so I like the program. Amber should drop their weapons. Mr. Bia should fix it all. Okay, please, thank you for your message. Hi, Leo. The issue in this country is that the pride that had taken a greater part of our leaders. As far as I know, this dialogue issue is a political propaganda to let the world think there is a step forward. If not, how can the leader accused for causing rebellion is not part of the dialogue plan? Uncle Jenisco writing from Douala. Jenisco, please, I can't read the whole message. Bear with me. This one sends, but a recorded message, I can't use it. Good evening to everyone. Coordinator, please allow the people to express their minds. Stop interrupting them. Why organize a program if you keep interrupting people when talking? It's Mr. Fidelis from Mutengene. I have to do my work now. I am a moderator. I need to direct them. Please bear with me also. Good evening, sir. I love your program. To me, the solution of the Anglophone crisis is for us to revise the Constitution so as to have a rotational presidency between Anglophones on the one hand and Francophones on the other hand. Each of these have to rule for a 2 terms only, and power moves to the other people. Thanks. Echi, writing from Likumba in Tiko. Good evening to the mayor of Tiko, His Royal Highness Daniel Mukondo Ngande. Mr. Bia and Abo Machoy did an intensive findings, and Madame Dorothy Njoma did intensive findings on the Anglophone problems some years back, so these three are fully aware of our problems. All these consultations and missions abroad is just to waste taxpayers' money. Besides, PM John Gute is a law professor and knows our problems very well. Let them invite Mr. Lee Tumbenjo to remind them of the problem from 1961 till date. Fonji Joe of Bamenda, he says, and Cardinal Tumi. Okay. Mr. Elvis, I love the way you talk. Please keep educating the public. Greetings to all in the studio. Alemji Fabian, writing from Kumba. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please tell Mr. Elvis to stop shouting and talk like Mr. Obi. Okay. This one says, good evening to everyone watching. Writing from Kumba, I think the government always remains a government, just like the father always remains a father. Cameroonians generally have a problem of trust and patriotism. We cannot compare 1992 and 2019. A lot has changed, especially when it comes to technology and innovation. Why can't we give dialogue a chance? Why can't we, during this period before the dialogue, lobbying with the government that we know a lot of Cameroonians have lost trust in them, that we think it is an opportunity for them to prove the nation that things can be done. Attacking the government and damning every aspect, especially of the past, will not help. Let's all give the government a chance. Thank you. Thank you too. You did not give us your name and where you are writing from. I prefer the Thibaut Nagy than Antonio Guterres to see into our problem. What is the difference between Ayuk Tabi and co and the diaspora that government is sending delegation to meet again? Why not remove them to represent the diaspora? Okay, St. Derek says, was on your program when Faith Enoy did their job. Every individual has a stand. We need truth, honesty, and nothing less than that. Anything far from speaking the truth and nothing but the truth is a way of accumulating troubles. Stop consulting wrong persons. Stop boasting about the bust. The dialogue has failed from inception, and the deals and the SUs, we lost confidence in them all. Senderic, good evening to you. We should be watching from Bonaberry. Good evening to you. The resolution of the conflict is clear. Both sides should sit on the same table, including the leader and his team. An independent broker and observers should be present to make sure every resolution taken at the end of the negotiation should be implemented. Good evening to you all. I'm Derek, writing from Batoke. To me, this dialogue is considered non-event. You cannot summon me in your parlor to settle land disputes we have been having for more than 50 years with your wife as the chairman of the meeting. Okay. Good evening. I love your program. Let's pray for God for good talk. It's Nati, writing from Douala. Good evening, sir. It's Ndakliff. I love your program from Bamenda. Thank you very much. The problem now is demilitarization and relocation of IDPs, but which one will come first? Will the troops retreat or will the troops take part in the relocating of IDPs? Nikki is writing from Kumba says, good evening, sir. I so much like the program. Mr. Elvis is saying something. Right on, Mr. Elvis. Okay. This one says, I congratulate you for your spirit of moderation, Mr. Stanley, writing from Kumba. Thank you very much for those words of encouragement, Mr. Stanley. Good evening, sir. I love your program. Let us wait for the dialogue and listen to what he says. As I'm Clement from Bamenda, Meta Quarters. Good evening to you all from Bamenda. Good evening, everyone watching the program. Vicky from Limbe. Cameroon has so many problems. Okay, thank you. If our leaders like Ayuk Tabi and our brothers are not released, I see no need for the dialogue. Okay, the right thing. I'm Gustavo from Nyos village in the northwest region. Good evening, house. It's Rhyme from Yaoundé. Mr. Elvis Courage, I like the way you express your mind concerning this crisis. Good evening to you all in the studio. I'm called Gerard from Ground Zero. The SDO knows those generals only now that the president called for national dialogue. Okay, says just a question. What is the armed forces still doing in some villages when we are talking about dialogue? The people are not free saying them. Jeremiah, writing from Limbe. Please, Amber fighters cannot attend meetings because the army is still killing massively. Mr. Ray is writing from Kumba. Good evening, sirs. I love your wonderful program. I think if the power that be can leave the present, okay, talks about 1966 Constitution, we have to end there. Lots and lots of messages from across the country. He says, good evening, I love your program. I'm called El Ramos Huncho. We have to end here. Thank you for coming. Fa Elvis Tayon.
Well, thank you very much. It's our wish that the right thing is done for this dialogue to yield fruits. And we pray that the powers that be, God in particular, will be able to redirect the state to do the proper thing for us to get out of this quagmire of the Anglophone crisis, which is bringing us untold suffering.
Okay. Mr. Agotem, we thank you for coming here for the first time.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. This is the first time I'm here, and I think that I've discovered this program. It's a nice program. We are not against the dialogue, but we are against the approach that it is being used. And my last words will be that to Chief Dr. John Gute, that even if Mr. Biya is trying to wrap this dialogue his own way, he has the opportunity to enter into history by doing the right thing. And the right thing will be for him to give out of the dialogue and tell Cameroonians, please, we need a neutral mediator to carry on.
Okay.
Thank you.
We equally want to say we are grateful to you, the representative from the Popular Action Party, all the way from Yaoundé.
Well, thank you, Mr. Liu. You seem to have forgotten my name. I'm Mr. Ndage George. I would like to say that His Excellency Chief John Gute, you have the right time to create history in Cameroon. You have the right moment for your name to enter history in Cameroon by inviting the right people to the dialogue table. If really you have Cameroonians at heart, invite the right parties at the dialogue table, then we will have peace in Cameroon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ndage. Njegu, I did not forget your name.
Yeah.
I just wanted to highlight your party better than you as yourself, because you are talking here on their behalf, and that he is also here on the behalf of the Citizen Front, that is made up of civil society organizations and some political parties. We equally want to say thank you to you, Desmond. Thank you to you, Eli, and thank you to you, Corinne at the broadcasting, and to you, Billy Bob and Divel Lifongo, and to you, Tabi Tambe Bryant. We say we are grateful for all of you who have taken time to watch us. Take another rendezvous with us on Sunday midday on House of Commons to discuss hot issues touching on the lives of Cameroonians. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.